Congratulations on the win, Brian. What did you make of Alex's performance there as emergency center back?
It's fine. Good. I mean, no critical errors. Possession was good. That's what we put him in there for, because, I thought we would have more of the ball than Austin. So, good. I think Jackson stepped up, to help him a little bit, because you play as an individual first, but then you play as pairs, and two center backs always have to play as a pair. So Jackson did a good job with leadership. So, on that note, it was good.
All right, we'll go to the second row, Jada, then Maz.
Thank you. Congratulations to again, Brian. How did you feel that the team responded after, was this the kind of response that you would want after a Club World Cup performance?
Yeah, you could see bits and pieces of what transpired in the last 3 games tonight. I'll use the second goal as an example. We're pushed back a little bit and we have the ball, but they found the commitment, maybe the courage, might be too strong because I knew we like to play with the ball, to keep possession. We did that against PSG, against Atletico, against Botafogo. We were able to, be good in our possession. In the sequence, we're back here and Steph, and we play it wide, and we don't panic, and Alex, and we get out, and Kalani, and here, Jesus slips the ball into Moose, and he does the rest. But, from back to front, when you score goals like that, it just shows that the team is committed to play and play with good possession. So I was very, very pleased with that.
Mas?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about your transition game, but what did you like about that? You just told us about the particular sequence there, but it seemed like you had other opportunities in which your transition game was working. What was working with that?
I don't know, Maz. I mean, I might disagree with you there a little bit. I thought we could be a little bit more direct in the initial transition moment and then make it a decision, because we need runners ahead of the ball. Like when we played against Atletico, when you watch them, and we talked about that at halftime, Atletico, when they win the ball, it's not just one guy running forward or 2 guys running forward, it's 4 and 5, and they really transition. And I think we can do a better job there. And you don't have to pass the ball to any one of the guys that are running forward. You can still elect to slow it down or keep possession or just push the ball higher up the field. And so that's what I want for the club. I want them to actually go and sprint, because most goals nowadays in soccer come through transition. But I also want it to be a decision, if that makes sense.
We'll come back. Go ahead.
Hey, Brian. Again, congratulations on the win. What does this clean sheet tell you about the team's defensive structure? Despite having a, somewhat of a depleted back line there.
Well, we've always been a good defensive team because I demand. It's just part of what I believe in, that every player on the field has to do their part defensively. And look, the defending that Danny Masowski or Jordan does up here is different than what Paul Rothrock or Ryan Kent or what Alex and Kalani and Nuhu or the two. It's all different according to position, areas of the field, but they all have to defend, and that's been one of our calling cards. I was appreciative of some of the comments that, PSG were surprised a little bit that we were pressing high on goal kicks. Well, that's part of our DNA. I mean, that's one of the easiest moments to press. So I expect that. I expect a lot of it. And, that kind of sometimes helps you if you got some, changes in the back line.
Diego, español o inglés?
Español.
Ok, claro.
Gus,
Buenas.
how are you?
Felicitaciones por el triunfo. Tengo una pregunta respecto al Mundial de Clubes. Si bien es cierto, el Sander no obtuvo ningún punto, desde mi punto de vista, su participación fue aceptable, considerando la jerarquía de los rivales que enfrentó. ¿Cree usted que con mejores refuerzos hubiera podido hacer más? Gracias.
Congratulations on the win. I have a question about the Club World Cup. The Sounders ended up not accumulating any points, but from a certain point of view, the performance can be considered acceptable, especially consider the hierarchy and the power of the opponents. Do you think that by getting some reinforcements to the roster, you could have the Sounders could have done more?
Well, I would probably say that because of our injury situation, maybe we could have got more. I mean, obviously, if you look at the payroll of Paris, of Atletico and Botafogo, I mean, we could have spent 20, 30, 40 million and still not reach what they spend. So, I mean, for us, just having, Jordan injured and Yaimar and Kim Ki-hee and some other guys, I think we could have, been a little more competitive if some of those guys would have been available to play.
Bueno, en realidad que mismo con los jugadores que estaban lastimados, si lo estuvieran disponibles ya podríamos haber hecho más. Si ves la inversión en cuanto a los pagos para los jugadores de equipos como Botafogo, Atlético y PSG, mismo que si hiciéramos tremendas inversiones, no íbamos a llegar a los niveles de gastos que ellos hacen. Entonces, como jugadores como Yeimar o Kim, que no estaban disponibles, si estuvieran, podríamos competir más y obtener más.
All right, George, I see you on Zoom. Thanks for waiting patiently. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question, please?
Hi, Brian. So you mentioned that you got something out of Atletico Madrid in terms of how they play. I was curious if you got any points from the way Botafogo and Paris played, and also how good it is to play on natural grass for MLS, and if you expect to be able to play on natural grass more often in the future.
Well, of course, but I'll answer the grass question first because, the stadium was built with the soccer people, and was it grass, was it turf? I mean, look, we share the stadium with many different entities. That's all above my pay grade. Every player would tell you that, yes, of course, grass is a preferred surface, but our turf is very good. So when we laid the turf down and then, next year after the World Cup, the new turf goes down, new turf fields are good. So that's that part of it. What we learned from Paris, obviously we're not quite at that level though, was, they beat you with extended possession and counter-pressing. And again, that's something that we like to do. We like to possess the ball in the opponent's half of the field because why? Because that actually makes it easier to counter-press and regain the ball and suffocate opponents. And, our home record is very good this year. I think we've only lost one game this year. So at home, we want to do exactly that.
All right, see a few follow-ups on this side. Miles, we'll start with you, then go to Jeremiah.
Brian, just going back to that, you said you need the players to make the decision in that transition. What is that you want them to do more? Is it to pass, dribble, or just read how the game's going, like Paul Rothrock seemed to attack that final third?
Look, the beauty of our sport is that, it's fluid. It can change in seconds, in minutes, in intervals, and, whatever. What we try and do as coaches is get the players to have good vision. Okay, that's number one, because you can't make a good decision unless you see the field, okay, the entire field. And then they have to play, and they're there. They're feeling the game. Like the transition moment in the first half, Masowski wins the ball. He wins the ball at midfield, drops it back. Albert plays Rothrock in, and it's a, moment where, Paul's got to make a decision. Is he going to wait? Is he going to hold the ball up? Is he going to bring it back? No, he goes to the end line, clips the ball back, and we score. Second goal, the ball comes to Jesus, and we've got a runner ahead of the ball, which is Masowski. And so the ball is played there, and that's a decision that Jesus makes. He could have played the ball out here to the left. I can't remember who was out here on the left, but he chose to make the ball down the middle. So it's good on him.
Talking a little bit more about the sequence that led into the first goal. Paul gets into it with Danny Pereira. There's a little fracas there, but I have to imagine that you really liked the way that he responded to that moment, where it was
Paul.
I mean, there was a drop. You know, there's no foul. There's a drop ball. You guys get the ball back almost immediately, and then he sort of he makes that play.
Yeah. Look, there was another play, but like what Paul does well is some of the little things. There's a ball in the second half where the ball's played in behind, and the ball's up in the air, and most players would have just ran straight and to the ball and try and get ahead of or stay ahead of his defender. But what Paul did is he slowed down, used his body, and then slowed the defender down, then accelerated again and made the play, and I think the guy got a yellow. And those are smart plays. So Paul's capable of that. Now, on the flip side, he's got to be careful because, sometimes when you're an agitator or aggressor, it can go against you. But tonight's game, he was good.
Also wanted to ask about Reed getting the 2 yellow cards there. I don't know. What did you say to him in the aftermath, and what
Well,
would you?
I haven't spoken to him yet. I will. I mean, look, the first one, it's a handball because, it stops the play, a little soft there. But the second one, he doesn't need to dive in. I thought he might have learned from a game in Kansas City last year. He got a couple quick yellows. But look, he's still a young kid, and, he's got some potential. But he's got to learn from those moments.